My name is Paul Bailey and I'm South Central District Fishery Supervisor with the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. Northern pike are our state fish. Our state legislature declared northern pike our state fish several decades ago. They're fairly ubiquitous across North Dakota, and they have what's called a circumpolar distribution in the northern hemisphere. So basically you can find them in northern latitudes everywhere in the northern hemisphere, almost up to the Arctic Circle in some cases. And then they also can be found down throughout the central Great Plains. So they're very widespread species. They're present in about half of our 430 or so fishing water bodies that we have in North Dakota. So anglers are likely to encounter pike in a lot of the places that they go fishing. Northern pike have a few different characteristics that make them well adapted to our environment we have here in North Dakota. One of the most obvious is their coloration. They have a typical pattern we see in a lot of our fish species that's known as counter shading, where they're lighter on their underside and darker towards their back. That allows these fish to basically disappear into their environment a little bit. When they're visible or viewed from the bottom against the sky, they disappear into that background fairly well. And then if they're looked at them from the top down, they can disappear into a dark lake bottom. And then in addition to that counter shading, these pike tend to have this mottled coloration on their sides, which make them really well adapted to hiding in some aquatic vegetation. So that's stereotypically where you would think of finding pike, is on those edges of weed pockets throughout many of our lakes. This allows those pike to blend in, hiding from predators when they're little, and then also hiding from their prey as they get larger, like this one. Northern pike also have these very forward-facing eyes, typical of what we see in predator species. So they're not as concerned with avoiding predation themselves and having, a wide field of vision around them. They're more interested in seeing prey in front of them. Northern pike also have pretty well-developed teeth, very effective as a predator species for latching onto prey. Northern pike typically try and prey on forage about 1/3 their body length and size. And they will consume prey up to about half their body length and size, depending on the shape of the prey that they're potentially feeding on. Obviously, they can feed on a 12-inch perch easier than a 12-inch crappie. But these pike tend to try and take their food down their throat head first. They're primarily fish prey that they feed on does slide down a little bit better that way. Northern pike also have a pretty diverse diet. The main component of their diet is typically going to be other species of fish. In North Dakota, oftentimes that's fathead minnows, yellow perch, and a lot of our prairie lakes. But they will feed on basically anything they can consume, such as baby ducks, reptiles, amphibians, baby muskrats. Those sorts of things are oftentimes found in pike diets if they're abundant out in nature. Anglers who encounter northern pike oftentimes are going to see that fish is very slippery. They're covered in a coat of slime, and that does several important things for the pike. One, most importantly, is it protects them from bacteria and viruses that are present out there in the water, and also protects them from abrasion in some of the vegetation that they may be encountering where they're hiding, waiting for prey to come by. Pike are typically, most commonly, their foraging behavior is serving as an ambush predator, where they will hide in a weed edge, waiting for some prey, typically fish or other organisms that they could fit in their mouth, swimming by, where those pike will dart out and consume that prey. Northern pike's body shape can also tell you quite a bit about their foraging behavior. They're this torpedo shape with a very thick tail section, muscular area down there. So northern pike, we couple that with their coloration, you can tell they're designed to hide in some aquatic vegetation and then quickly dart out with that powerful tail to secure their prey. Another clue about pike behavior is with the composition of their flesh. Like walleye, crappie, perch, pike have very white, kind of flaky flesh that's great on the table, but that also provides some clues as to their foraging behavior. They're not great long-distance swimmers, so they're not undergoing long periods of swimming to secure their prey. But pike are designed to use those muscles to quickly dart out, but they're not great long-distance swimmers. Fish species that are better long-distance swimmers, like say salmon and paddlefish, have much darker flesh that has higher concentrations of myoglobin in it that allow them to swim in sustained periods much longer. Northern pike lack that myoglobin, so they're designed for short bursts of speed. Northern pike populations tend to fluctuate quite a bit in North Dakota in response to what Mother Nature deals us as far as water levels are concerned. So northern pike have adhesive eggs and they like to spawn on flooded vegetation. So when we get rising water levels in the spring, that does a couple of really important things for pike reproduction. One is it provides some good spawning habitat for them when some terrestrial vegetation or cattails is flooded. That's ideal spawning habitat for northern pike. And then that also fuels the food chain when we have these rising water levels, that we get good invertebrate production from zooplankton like copepods and cladocerans to a lot of other aquatic insects. And after these pike spawn, it may take a couple of weeks for their eggs to hatch. And when those newly hatched pike start exploring their world, they need to eat. And that's what that vertebrate forage really does for them. So it's really that 1-2 punch that rising water levels do to fuel our pike populations. So when we have rising water levels, we can expect some booms in our pike populations. And when we go through periods of droughts, we expect our pike numbers to decline quite a bit. Northern pike typically spawn almost as soon as the ice comes off many of our lakes, which in North Dakota typically occurs sometimes as early as late March. Other years we could be pushing late April into early May till our lakes are ice free. And northern pike spawning is triggered kind of by a combination of two things. Photo period or day length coupled with water temperatures. So the pike are able to sense day length, which triggers some hormonal changes in those fish as far as gamete production. And then water temps, typically northern pike would like to spawn, and water temps around in the low 40s would be ideal. But Mother Nature sometimes confuses those two things. If we get an early spring, that might speed up the pike spawning. A later spring might delay it quite a bit. In cases where we're lacking natural reproduction of northern pike but still want to try and produce a pike fishery, for example a lake that has otherwise good environmental conditions for those pike and good foraging conditions for those pike, we can establish a pike population through stocking. So in the spring of the year, the North Dakota Game and Fish Department works collaboratively with our federal fish hatcheries at Garrison Dam National Fish Hatchery and Valley City National Fish Hatchery to collect northern pike eggs from wild sources, fertilize those eggs, and transport them to one of our 2 federal fish hatcheries where the hatchery personnel hatch those eggs and then raise them in outdoor rearing ponds till they're about an inch and a half long in size. And those are what we call fingerling northern pike. And that's the product we're able to stock around the state to maintain many of our pike fisheries. This year is a fairly typical year for our northern pike egg collections in North Dakota. We're looking to collect about 20 gallons of northern pike eggs, which represents about 4.5 million eggs. Now, not every one of those eggs survives. Typically what we see in our hatchery setting is maybe about 2/3 of those eggs in a good year surviving. And then not every one of those surviving eggs that hatches and stocked in a hatchery pond survives either. So those 4.5 million eggs we're hoping to collect should allow us to end up with about 900,000 fingerling northern pike to stock here in late May through June. A lot of our prairie lakes simply aren't able to produce pike of trophy sizes very consistently. Pike in a lot of our prairie lake fisheries have this live fast, die young life history due to the warmer water temps that they encounter in a lot of these lakes. That coupled with maybe the lack of suitable forage in a lot of our prairie lakes where those pike don't have that diverse size structure of forage that they need to feed on as they increase in size. Again, those northern pike like to feed on forage about 1/3 their body length and size. So many of our prairie lakes have abundant, say, small perch and fathead minnows, which is a great forage if you're a small northern pike, but maybe not the greatest forage if you're a much larger size northern pike. So where we do consistently see pike of larger sizes being produced are in places like the Missouri River system, Lake Sakakawea, Lake Oahe especially, Lake Ashtabula, Jamestown Reservoir, Pipestem Reservoir, Lake Chida, Lake Audubon, places like that that have that more diverse forage base out there. And then a second thing that is needed to produce those larger size pike is that cool water refuge. Larger female northern pike tend to prefer much cooler water temperatures than smaller or male northern pike. So that's a big player in where we see larger northern pike being produced consistently, is having that diverse forage base along with that cold water refuge for those big females. Pike also tend to be very cooperative as far as angling is concerned. Anglers can use a variety of techniques to target pike. One of the most common methods is simply dunking a bobber with say a minnow or a rainbow smelt underneath that, a frozen rainbow smelt. You can also cast for pike using a variety of spoons, plastics, crankbaits, all those sorts of things. And that's one of the things I enjoy most about pike, is if you're in a place that has decent numbers of pike, it's hard to have a bad day of fishing. Another important consideration, especially with the larger pike, walleye, muskies, even paddlefish that anglers might catch and want to release, is to not hold them vertically. Fish are designed to have their bodies supported by water, so they don't have all the connective tissue holding their internal organs in place like terrestrial animals do. So if you hold this fish vertically, a lot of times you can see in pictures that the internal organs have shifted downwards in the fish, and that may damage them. So hold the fish horizontal as best you can, and try and avoid holding them vertically. And then releasing the fish, go ahead, just put them in the water. Hold their tail a little bit, and the fish will oftentimes let you know when they're ready to go. Pike are great on the table. They have that nice white flaky flesh that tends to taste like whatever you season them with. But one of the challenges with pike can be removing the Y bones. But we have a great tutorial video on our website that anglers can consult there. That's a good tutorial on how to remove those Y bones, make them even better on the table. So there's tremendous northern pike fishing opportunity out there across North Dakota. No angler should be very far away from being able to explore some of that opportunity. They're a great fish on the table, and they're one of our most cooperative sport fish species for anglers. So I hope everyone can get an opportunity to target pike this summer.